welcome back. I'm going to continue talking about the majors from the Thoth, from the death card to the universe, based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And I'm showing the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying here, because that's the only physical copy I have that's related to that book. So, in the previous video, I talked about us dying, death, and expanding into a limitless form, which is the soul in temperance. So now you will see that I put the line from devil to sun in a row, because this part is where I find that my interpretation of the Tibetan Book of the Dead with the tarot goes through a cycle. So from devil to sun, there's this cycle that I perceive within the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So through the process of between the process of temperance to devil, we know devil as something that is like chaining us. So between temperance and devil, there's what I feel that the stage of illusion comes in, the stage where we face illusions come in. So once we start to grapple with our soul, we start to get trapped by our thinking again. So at this stage in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, there's some mention of sounds, lights, rays which can frighten us. So from expansion, we try to contract, we try to become trapped. And from this stage onwards, as someone who has not woken up to the idea of Bado. So when we are, maybe a master can understand the nature of illusion, but for many of us, we are not trained to perceive illusions. So our experience or our perceptions start to come in, showing things like the sounds, lights, and waves, which I mentioned just now. So our natural inclination is to fear them and contract. So once we fear them and contract, we start to become we start to go through a cycle, like a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, where we face two opposing sides, which is what I saw in the moon card when I first saw the Thoth deck. So how do we go from this devil to the moon? I perceive this tower as us being frightened to having to face realization that what manifests are our own thoughts, especially when it comes into contact with our own emotion. So for this particular Thoth, this depiction from Thoth, we know that this, like a mouth of fire, not only is there the iconic tower falling down, but there's also the fire. So this is our fear. We have to destroy our own ego. So here is where the cyclic process becomes kind of like it jumps here and there. So to go through this stage of knowing that there's no I, there's just this soul, we are the void, we are the infinite. And when the sounds, lights, all these ways starts to frighten us, we have to believe in the thing that frightens us. belief in the star, the belief in the dazzling white light. So believe in something that frightens us. So at that same moment, we need to destroy our own egoic fear to something that frightens us. As you know, the tower is one of the scariest card in the deck, because to many people, the tower falling down can be very scary, including me. I find this a very scary card. So this stage is, because it requires me to deal with my own problems, which sometimes I cannot see, So we have to believe in this white light, but the process of doing so, we need to distinguish the two things that appear in front of us. So in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, there's always the description of the appearance of one of those deity figure, the gods and goddesses, and then the light that they emit are so bright, so it's kind of like the sun that blinds us. And then there's another softer, duller light that comes out. So because we are so afraid of this kind of light, this light that's so bright that we are scared it will burn us, we tend to choose the light that's quite that's lighter and duller. But in doing so, we will be drawn into a stage of where we enter into the so-called hell. Once we make the choice, when we, I believe in my case, it will be possible that I miss the first stage, second stage, and so on. So this stage will keep continuing on. But the star here reminds us to have faith, because there's always the next stage if we miss the stage. But what is most important for us as a soul at this stage is to, even if we believe, we must also seize the chance to recognize what truth is. In doing so, being liberated. So repeat cyclic process, and the problem for us is we must try not to try to have the desire to go back to the human world. So we might think, as humans now, it's so easy to hate this world for whatever it is, but because it's something that we are so used to, so as a soul, we want to go back to something that's more comfortable. So we tend to get sucked back into desire to go back to the human world. But if we do so, we cannot escape the cycle of reincarnation and miss the chance to connect with the God body or the divine. Even though if we miss all this portion, we cannot recognize the true source for what it is, then we go into another stage where things become more frightening, whereby the gods do not look nice anymore. They look very wrathful and very frightening, kind of like the goddess Kali with her frightening blood and all that. So this will start to happen, and finally we all fall down into the hell, what we call as hell. But then, as what I keep mentioning in the previous video, that we must learn to recognize that what is manifesting in front of us is just our thought patterns, our human perceptions. So I believe you all know this card. This is the Judgment card. In Thoth, it's the Aeon. Okay, so let me bring out the Justice. I know some people have problem with this card because they perceive it as being you being judged for a sin. So, but I will still take this traditional depiction, because this is what happens to us. We fall into a hell in which we are perceived to be judged. So there will be the frightening lord of the hell coming out, tying a noose around you and dragging you through the fields of hell. So at this stage you will be very, very frightened. I know I will be, but we need to recognize that because we are limitless, going back to art temperance, because we are limitless, we are one and all. There's nothing existing outside of us. So we cannot be judged because we are already everything. So the only thing that's judging us now is ourselves. So we are the child, the adult, the world, the womb. We are everything. So at this stage, we must recognize that we are the one judging ourselves. And if we manage to understand the stage of illusion, even when we fall into hell, we will understand our divinehood. So in the universe, you will see like this person liberated dancing with a snake in the Thoth. But what I like to point out is the building below. So I perceive this building below to be kind of like the illusionary structures that is our world, and us being free from it. Yeah, so this is kind of like a very simplistic talk about how I perceive the Tibetan Book of the Dead, something like that, with the measures. I hope that it will add some understanding to your practice, tarot practice. I for sure have I like to always talk about the Tibetan Book of the Dead in some way with my friends, because I really love this card. The moon is my favorite card in the tarot, and I find that this Thoth depiction really symbolizes my relationship with this book, the Tibetan Book of the Living and Dying, and thus the Tibetan Book of the Dead, in how we perceive the world, our dark night of the soul, and how we are actually the sun as well, even though we have to go through hell. Thank you so much for listening to me.